Today we're going to learn about XML and JSON and other things related to those two concepts. So at the first, I will explain about what is XML, what is JSON, and then we are going to learn what we call as the Django REST framework. And we are going to learn about what is feeder, what is Ajax. And this is only the basic stuff. Hopefully you can also implement in your team project. Okay. Whenever you do with the database, so it frequently fails to operate synchronously when there is a data exchange in the web. So now I think you try to create your database using the ERD because it is the basic one. But as it mentioned, it often fails because whenever you do with the web, you need to do synchronously, simultaneously. So sometimes it is real time. So HTML is used to display content. So you can display the components, you can display the documents, but not the data. So there is a need to use software or hardware independent tool for storing and transporting data in the web. So there's a concept, we call it XML. So XML is a data format. XML, it is extensible markup language. XML is a way of structuring the data. XML is a data format which was generated based on text. Okay, we already learned about HTML. We have text. Let's say we have body, and then we have the closing of body. So that's the HTML tag. Now we are going to use XML. So there are some specifications that you can refer to. This is the detail about XML. What is XML? How to design XML? How to make the XML schema, and etc. So if you want to read more, you can go to this link. There's another concept, we call it JSON. JSON, JSON. It is also another data format, and it is a way of structuring the data. So JSON is a data format using text for storing and transporting the data. And this is the specification. You can use this link to understand what is JSON. And then there are two specifications for the JSON schema. So the JSON schema for and how to validate the JSON schema. So today we are going to learn those two things. So the trend in XML and JSON. I think most of you will use CSV. I think most of you know what is CSV. It is a good data format for doing the machine learning. So whenever you try to do the machine learning, or if you want to do the data analytics, you will need to have this data. But when you are dealing with web, you need to understand what is JSON, what is XML. And when you search on the internet, okay, so you can see XML, actually it is very popular in 2004. So people use XML to change data through web. But by the time people have more interest on JSON. So JSON has more interest than XML. So XML trend is getting lower, but the JSON trend is getting higher. But what about the CSV? So the CSV still remain stable. Okay. So we can see from this graph, it means the JSON has some important point. So we can consider JSON as one of the important aspects when you have data. Let's say, yeah, if you know ESPN, so this is a news media in US, and they use XML to represent the newsfeed. So if you look at this, if you go to this one, this is the newsfeed. Okay. What is the top headline? So you can go here. So this is the data that they provided. This is in the form of XML. So when you understand this data, you can easily extract this data into maybe your PyCharm environment or for your notebook environment and etc. So you can take a look on different kind of RSS. Okay, so this is another XML. Another kind of implementation with JSON, we can look at how the people in the world share their tweets. If you use the social media like Twitter, okay, so you can take a look. But unfortunately, maybe they locked down this website. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, they already moved this website. So I checked yesterday, but it seems it does not work properly. So maybe now they have some kind of issue with the privacy, so they cannot share the data anymore. But there's one interesting thing that I found. We can also use JSON to map. So you can make a map with something like images like this one. So using the JSON, you can make map and then you can figure out where is your current location and then you can draw something like what about the transportation from one point to another point. So let's learn one by one. Okay. XML. XML with the formatted data. So it is one of the example. The below XML document contains data about a book. So we have the title, we have the information about authors, date publication, and the publisher. If you still remember tag, you still remember tag. In HTML, the tag has been defined. So you can only have the particular tag like HTML, body, maybe table, maybe OL. This is order list. UL, it is unordered list, and etc. So HTML already prepared the tag for you. But for the XML, you can design the tag by yourself. So, for example, I want to make a book data. So I want to make a book data. Then, okay, you can prepare your own tag. What will be the tag? In this case, I have the tag as book. I have the tag title. I have the tag authors. I have the tag of date. And then I have the tag publisher. So it is totally free. So you can make by your own for the tag. So I have book and it should be ended with book. I have title tag and it should be ended with the title with stress. authors, I should have an ending with slash authors. Let's say one book, there are multiple authors. So this is the first author. This is the second author. I have date. Maybe this is only the year and publisher. So this is the tag and this is the ending tag. So using this data, we can represent something like this table. So in the table, you have title, author one, author two, date, and publisher. So you can represent this data into this XML. What about if we want to write in JSON? So if you want to write in JSON, then you need to put like this format. So the format is using dictionary in Python. So it's similar with dictionary. And we also use this kind of format in JavaScript. In JavaScript, we also use the curly bracket. Now you can see when we open the dictionary with the JavaScript, so we need to define what is the entity name. So we want to make a book or we want to make data about books. So the books will have another entity. So it means that one book will have title, authors, date, and publisher. With the same data, I want to mention that the title of this book is Parsing Techniques, and the author of the book is Dick Grun and Cyril Jacobs. So it is in the list. And I have the information about it, and then I have information about publisher. So this is in the JSON format. Now, if you look at the XML and JSON side by side, so in the XML, you need to define the beginning and the ending of the tag. So we also have the beginning of the entity in JSON. For the title, you can represent only one. E, this is the title. But in the XML, you need to define the starting and the ending tag. For the authors, you have authors as the beginning and ending. And you can define this one as an array or this is a list. However, in XML, you need to define one by one. When you have date, yeah, you can define like this one. If you have the information about publisher, you can define like this one. So, which one is better, XML or JSON? So it is a kind of interest. There is no better, there is no worse. But people like JSON because it is more simple. You can just define the entity name, the attribute name. Meanwhile, in the XML, you still need to define the ending. So some people said that it is quite problematic because if you don't define the ending, then the tool cannot read the data. But still, many big companies, they use XML. And nowadays, many companies, they provide both XML and JSON. So if you still remember, I'm not sure if I teach you already. If you know the Gonggong data, so in Korea, we have the site Gonggong data. And whenever you want to extract the data from here, you need to look at the details. For example, the data format. So most of the site, when they try to provide the data, they will provide the data maybe using Excel. People still use CSV, but you can see they also provide JSON and XML. So there are many websites, they put those two as a similar format. But actually, yeah, you can figure out later how to access this one, even though they are using the JSON plus XML, but you need to access in different ways. Okay, so if you need that one, you can try to download and check those data. So this is the difference. Okay. When you want to use the JSON, it will be easier because when you use the XML, you need to define multiple time of single item. But if you use JSON, it will be easier because you can just define with array. And there are still so many other things. Now let's just try with the first trial, how to write XML and JSON and how to read XML and JSON. So let's just make a new Django project in the PyCharm, okay? And then let's make a folder. Let's make a folder Python package. So I'm just using this Python package to make testing. So let's do the testing, which is testing data, and then let's create the Python file. So now we are going to create some Python file like this one, writing XML, reading XML, writing JSON, and reading JSON. Okay, let's try. Yeah, I still have problems with this computer. Anyway, the project name, yeah, I will just make it like this one. Now I will make a new Python package. So I will make a new Python package. I hope that you understand. You can do the right click here, and then you can go to the new. So in the new sections, there are many options. At the first options and the first section, you can make a new file, you can make a new scratch file, you can make a new directory, you can make a new Python package. So what is the difference between directory and Python package? Directory means just a folder. Python package means this is a folder for creating Python file. So if you are using a new Python file, it is recommended to use Python package. If there is no Python file, maybe last time we learned about JSON. Oh, sorry, we learned about JavaScript. Then you can use directory. If you want to download some images, then you can use directory. If you want to use HTML file, then you can use directory. Now let's make the Python package. So let's just make testing here. Okay, I have the new Python package, this one. Now let's start with the new one. Writing xml.py. Okay, I will do this one. I will copy and paste this code. And then let's make a new file. Let's make a new Python file. So in the folder of testing data, you can do the right click and then you can click new. And then you can create a new Python file. So the new Python file, I want to make a new file which is writing XML. Okay, in the writing XML.py, I can paste the code from the PowerPoint. Okay. So this is the code. We have the XML, and then yeah, in this case we have 3 books. Okay. So after you have this code, then execute the file. Okay, so you can execute the file. How to execute the file is you can click on the writing xml.py and then you can run. Okay. So you can run separately for this Python file. Okay, after you run this file, then you will have a new file. Why it doesn't appear? So let me refresh. Where is refresh? Okay, let me reload again. Why it is so slow? Okay, now when you finish executing the file, you will see a new data here, book data.xml. Okay. And then you can double click and then you can see like this one. Now, the problem is you need to see like this tree. Okay. However, you will see all everything in one line. And you can just right click, make this one, and then you will have the refactor. Right? Sorry, reformat. Where is the reformat? Oh, sorry, this one. So you can go to the file of this XML, do the right click, and then you can see reformat code. Okay. If you see the reformat code, if you click this one, just click OK, and everything now will be changed into a tree. Now, let's see. What does it mean by this tree? This is about books. So there will be an ending about books. And this is about all the books that I have. Maybe this is the book that I have in the inventory. And the first book, the author is this one. The title is Python. The author is this one. And the date is this one. Publisher and is this one. And then the second book, we have the title is Information System. The author is this one. And the date is this one. Publisher is this one. And the third book is this one. The title is Database. The author are those guys. The date is this one. And the publisher is this one. Okay. So how can we create this XML file? So this is the code. We need to use the element tree. So the element tree, it is from the E3 based on the XML. We need to make the element. The first element is books. Under the element books, we have a sub element. So this sub element, it is book. So the first is books, means it will contain many books. And then book is an element after root. What is the root? In this case, the root is books. Now I have the first data. The first data under the book, I will have title. And the title, it will be Python. And I have authors. So authors, it will be the text after book. And there will be another element which is date after book. And there will be another element which is publisher. It is after book. And the value of the date is 2013 and the value of the publisher is spring. Inside of authors, there will be author, and the first author is John, and the second author is Paul. The second data, we have the element title, and title, it is after the book. So the title is information system, and then after the book, there will be authors and date and publisher. So after book, this is the data. And after the authors, there will be two authors. The first author is Andrew, and the other author is Martin. What about the data number 3? Yeah, it is the same. Okay, so we can define the data number 3. And after we define all those data, we can create a tree. Okay. So the tree is the element tree from the root. So when we have a root, so we define that the root is books. And after books, we have book. After book, we have title, we have authors, we have date, we have publisher. So everything after the root, it will be created into the tree and write the tree into the file name, which is bookdata.xml. Okay, so that's the meaning by the code. Now, how can I read this XML in Python? Because whenever you have the data, you need to read and then you need to do something. Maybe if you want to do the data analytics, you need to read the data first. And I will use this one. Now let's make a new file reading.py. So I will make a new Python file reading xml.py. And then I will just copy and paste. Again, I'm going to use the element tree or EP. And then the file that I want to access is bookdata.xml. So I'm going to parse it into one variable, and the variable name is tree. From the tree, check the root. Okay, so we need to understand what is the root. After we know the root, then okay, we will check for every element in the root. If the first element, okay, then I want to check what is the sub element in that element. So for every sub element, we need to figure out. For example, when the sub element equal to tag, which is not the authors, then you can just print the text. But if it is author, then there will be another for loop, because if it is authors, we have two author. So we need to have another for loop, and then check what is the tag name, and then check what is the text. So if you run this, then you will see all item data is, first you will see the title, and then the author, and then the date and the publisher. The second data is the title, author, date, and publisher. The third data will be title, author, date, and publisher. Okay. Now let's have another example about JSON. Let's make a JSON file. We want to make a file, Python file, writing JSON.py. So let's make writing JSON.py. So we need to import the JSON into the PyCharm, and then we need to create an empty dictionary. So in the dictionary, we can define one list, a list. It is a list, and the list is an empty list from book. So in the book, I want to make a new data. So this is the first data. The title is Python. The authors are John and Bob, and it is in the list. And then we have date, and we have publisher. This is the second data, and this is the third data. After we have those data, we can just write into the file. In this case, I'm going to open the JSON and then write, and then out file. So it means I want to print. Okay, I want to print out from this data. So I'm going to use the JSON.dump. So the data that I created here, I would like to put it into the JSON file. So if you create this one, now you have book data.json. If you open, it's the same case with the previous file. It is only in one line, and you can do again, right click and reformat code. So after you do the reformatting, you will see that now the JSON will appear something like this. So we have book, and then we can have the title of the book, authors, date, and publisher. This is title, authors, date, and publisher. This is title, authors, date, and publisher. Okay, so you can see the book data.json, and then you can right click to reformat the code. And you need to read the JSON. Okay, so let's create a new file, reading JSON.py. So we have reading JSON. So we want to open the book data.json as a JSON file. So let's load the JSON file with the JSON library into a variable data. And then we need to access each of them with the name of the key. So in this case, if the name is book, then okay, let's print each of the item. Let's print the title, and let's print the T equals title. If there are authors, so let's print the authors based on X of the element. If you meet the date, put equals to date. If you meet the publisher, then print the T equals to publisher. So if you run this one, you will get Python John Bob date 2013, publisher Springer, and this is the second book. This is the third book. Okay. So we call this is the XML document 3. So we have book, and the book contains title, authors, date, and publisher. So the title is parsing techniques. We have two authors, which is Dick Grun and Sherry Jacobs, and the date of publication is 2007, and the publisher is Springer. So an XML document is a tree. We can also think JSON is also tree. So the tree will be something like this one. Book, we have title, author, date, and publisher, but the only difference is about the authors. So we are not creating two branches. Instead of creating two branches, we have only one, which is an array, or this is a list in Python. Okay. Yeah, let me stop here. Let's have a break. I will continue.